Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. This past week was buzzing with activities as Jamaica hosted the IMF High-Level Caribbean Forum under the theme Unleashing Growth and Strengthening Resilience. Ian Boyne sat down with the Managing Director of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, to discuss Jamaica's successes in the past 4 years and how we can chart the way forward to maintain growth stability. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay tuned as the magazine unfolds.
Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity for a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity, to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity, to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand.
Productivity, Pathway to Prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Good things have been happening lately in the Jamaican economy. It has been reported that the employment rate has increased and unemployment has decreased. IMF's Managing Director Christine Lagarde tells us more.
Welcome to this GI's exclusive interview with the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Madame Christine Lagarde. I am Ian Boyne. Madame Lagarde, welcome again to Jamaica and welcome to this GIS special. Just wanted to ask you, first of all, Madame Lagarde, about your own impressions of the commitment of the Holiness Administration to the reform agenda. Do you sense that the administration has the political will to stay the course?
Well, let me say that it's very, very nice to be back in Jamaica and to be back in circumstances where clearly there has been success. And it's not the success of the IMF, it's the success of Jamaica, of the Jamaican authorities and of the Jamaican people. You know, I remember back in 2013 already, the odds were not that it was going to be successful. And there was a lot of negative and very pessimistic views of what the programs would be like and how Jamaica would perform. And here we are, a few years later, and it has been an amazing journey. Look at it. The country at the time was in a very, very bad financial condition. Couldn't borrow on the financial markets. The debt levels were astronomically high, and the fiscal position of the country was very negative. Fast forward, circumstances have changed enormously. The macroeconomic situation of Jamaica is stabilized. The debt levels have gone down. The fiscal position is setting standards for the region. And what is more important is that we are seeing employment go up and unemployment go down, and setting also record that we hadn't seen for a long time. So the resolve of the Jamaican authorities, the previous regime and the current authorities, has been critically important to arrive at those successful results. I think I would add that in addition to the authorities, civil society engagement through the epoch has been also a critical condition to succeed in what has been a difficult set of measures taken by the authorities to stabilize the economy and turn the Jamaican economic situation into an attractive proposition for those who want to invest. And I think we are now moving into that second phase where, now that the situation has stabilized, now that the fiscal position is much improved and that the debt is going down very rapidly, there needs to be a focus on the efficient public spending in order to actually invest where there will be growth and encourage the private sector to also look at investing where there will be growth.
Madame Lagarde, you talk about efficient public spending, which many would see as a euphemism for public sector cuts, for layoffs, and these things are frightening to the ordinary Jamaican. You in your speech at the forum talked about electoral cycles. So you would understand the difficulty that political administrations face in doing the heavy lifting. Do you have the confidence that the authorities will go through this difficult phase now of dealing with public sector reform, which could involve layoffs?
You know, I was in politics myself for a period of my life, and I know that this is one of the most difficult things that a government has to do, which is to look with great lucidity at where it spends money, where it generates value, and what will it mean for the people. But that exercise is absolutely needed, because when you look at how much is being spent on the public wage bill relative to the services received by the people, there's something that needs to be adjusted. And I'm not suggesting that there should be more cuts, but there should be a reorientation of public spending towards initiatives that will be growth enhancing. So you need to look at where you're spending money. Is it useful? Is it not useful? Is it producing value? Is it generating growth? Is it going to lead to better infrastructure? Is it going to improve the business environment so that private sector is determined to invest? Those are the choices that need to be made. And yes, you're right. In the process, there might be no replacement of people who retire, or there might be decisions to retrain or refocus people into different areas of work. And there might be agencies that are eliminated because they don't serve a purpose anymore. But that exercise is needed in order to reorientate the spending towards what will be more efficient. Better infrastructure, better roads, better port facilities in order to greet, the cruise vessels that bring tourism, in order to rationalize the agriculture and make it more performing. So that's the exercise that is needed now. And I trust that the authorities will have the courage to do that. We heard the Prime Minister today say that this is the next big job that needs to be done. I really, give our full support to that, and we will be there to help and to support.
It seemed that this big ticket item has been delayed over the years because of the potentially difficult political implications. Is the IMF insisting that this must be done now, that we shouldn't have any further delay where this heavy lifting is concerned?
Well, those reforms are difficult to conduct, but they need to be conducted at a time when the situation is stabilized, and it is the case now. The macroeconomic framework is in place, it is solid. Jamaica is in a position to borrow on the financial markets, again, at decent terms. Its whole fiscal position is much healthier and the debt is going down. In order to generate growth, which is what is now needed, and in order to build on those success of the last 4 years, that step is needed. And, it will be, at the end of the day, positive for the people. Yeah. Because refocusing public spending where it will be growth generating will actually result in more economic activity, more investment, more jobs, and focusing on the real issues.
Would the IMF therefore be in favor of counter-cyclical measures, providing a stimulus some kind of Keynesianism, and traditionally IMF has resisted this kind of move when it has been pointed out that this is what is really needed in countries like Jamaica, rather than the compression and the fiscal consolidation. What is needed now is this space and countercyclical policies.
Well, the first thing you need to do is to stabilize. The second thing is you need to take the appropriate fiscal measures in order to turn the economy towards debt reduction, towards balance and reasonable spending and value generation. Once that is done, you need to look at your budget essentially, and you reorientate it towards what is going to be growth friendly. So we're not suggesting that more fiscal cuts are needed. The situation is stable. It needs to remain solid and healthy, okay? But public spending needs to be molded in such a way that it's oriented towards growth-friendly measures.
So this indicates that, in fact, the IMF does have a concern about the growth-enhancing measures, not just about the fiscal consolidation.
Oh, you know, believe me, once the situation is restored, stabilized, then certainly our recommendation for Jamaica and for other countries around the world is to make sure that public spending is growth friendly. We know that what is needed is definitely growth, is definitely jobs, and encouraging investment from the private sector in particular.
Yes, because in your address to the Caribbean Forum, you talk about a virtuous cycle being created as a result of growth, and that having an impact on unemployment and crime. But you know the historical economic experience, Madame Lagarde, that growth has often not resulted in increased employment. That growth, in fact, has not always resulted in development.
Well, I would observe, first of all, that the unemployment numbers are really showing now that jobs are back, unemployment is down. So there's something good going on at the moment, and we just need to continue to encourage it and support it so that the growth potential is increased and we continue to have the creation of jobs in Jamaica. You know, nothing is resolved simply with one tool. You have to use a category of measures. You have to improve tertiary education in particular. You have to improve the security in Jamaica and really target crimes, which is a plague on the economy and which is a threat to investment, in particular foreign direct investment. And you know, fiscal is one way to deal with those issues, but it's certainly not the only way. And partnership with the private sector is going to be critically important.
The 7% primary surplus target is, I think, unprecedented in terms of the demand. Is the IMF open to a reduction of this?
Well, first of all, I would observe that Jamaica is setting standards. And what was hard to believe back in early 73 is actually happening and has been delivered by the country and has determined the debt to not go up but go down, which is clearly a sign of good health for the Jamaican economy. It needs to continue to be solid and to be decisive, because financial markets, investors, will not look at 1 year, they will not look at one government, they will look at trends. Is there a change in the management of public finance? Is the reform of the tax administration yielding results? Is there a determination to look at public spending and reorientate and transform the public sector in such a way that it is delivering value? That needs to be looked at in the course of years, not 1 year. So I don't want to pass judgment. Is it going to be 7% for the next so many years? What I know is that there has to be a primary surplus of significant magnitude for a period of time in order to make sure that the debt is definitely going down to the rational levels that have been considered by the authorities.
Madame Lagarde, the issue of climate change is a major one, and it's one that you have devoted a lot of attention to. Is the IMF looking at boosting its own resources through RFC, other instruments, RFI, to help Caribbean countries who are so affected? The book, which was just released by the fund, Unleashing Growth, points out the significant problems that small states have in terms of natural disasters. Will you be devoting special attention to the Caribbean vis-a-vis this issue?
Well, two things. One is we have already decided to increase access to our financial instruments. We refer to access by reference to the share that each country has in the capital of the IMF.
That was done in May this
and
year.
it was
in May this year.
In May of 2017, we've decided to bring that up to 60% whenever more than 20% of the GDP of a country is destroyed. So that's step one, and it was urgently needed. The second thing that we have decided is to actually convene around us representatives of the public sector, of the private sector, other international financial institutions, in order to examine what else and what more can be done, not in the very short term, to fix the immediate damage, which needs to be done, of course, but to look at the medium term and find out whether there are financial instruments, insurance coverages, bond issuance, and any other type of precautionary or prevention instrument that can be available for the countries that are most susceptible of being hurt by weather catastrophes of the like that we've seen, like the recent hurricanes. And I think we need to do that because the public sector by itself will not be able to do it. There will never be enough of GDP to cover the cost of those premiums that will continue to go up. But if countries come together, if the insurance companies also participate, if the reinsurance companies are brought into the picture, if the financial institutions that are experts at designing highly sophisticated bonds that are particularly adjusted to the circumstances, and if the other financial institutions, such as us, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Banks, the Caribbean Development Banks, and others, can all come together to say, okay, together with the government of those countries, we just need to put our heads together and figure out what can be done so that when the massive catastrophe hits again and destroys again, we are better prepared. We can call on instruments. We have rapid forces that we can deploy in order to better respond to those circumstances. So this is the second thing. The last thing that I would mention, and it's particularly topical because there is this COP23 happening now in Berlin, is that we need to all continue to send a message across that overall fight against climate change is going to be decisive and will make a difference. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in the medium term, but in the longer term. So we need to really apply our energy to the short term, to rapid financing, which is raised to 60% of access, the medium term collective determination to invent new instruments and to pool resources in order to deploy the forces that will be needed, and the longer term perspective of actually dealing with climate change.
Madame Lagarde, thank you so much for your time. This has been a special and exclusive interview with the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Madame Christine Lagarde. We thank you for your company. I'm Ian Boyd.
Every single one of the men in this lineup has run 100 meters in less than 10 seconds. Here he comes, Usain Bolt.
very strong. He's already away from the rest of this field. He's destroying them. This is a magnificent piece of running. Talk about speed out of the blocks. And you have to say his start is pretty good, but he just kept getting quicker and quicker, or so it appeared.
Smashing the world record! Unbelievable! He's done it again!
Usain Bolt has run the fastest 100 meters in the history of humankind.
Mommy,
Yes, Zoe?
can we read this book? It will only take 10 minutes.
Sure, sit down. Every spring, Madame Angel Wing arranges.
Do you have 10 minutes? Read with your child today. Reading with your children for just 10 minutes each day helps develop their language and listening skills, stimulates their imagination, and expands their understanding of the world. So, start reading with your child today.
The United Nations World Tourism Conference is quickly approaching. The date is November 27 to 29, and the venue is the Montego Bay Convention Center. This next feature has all you need to know about the upcoming happenings.
157 countries will be represented, with scores of overseas participants. Government leaders, planners, policymakers, developers, and investors will converge. Where? On the second city for what is expected to be Jamaica's biggest yet tourism conference. The name of the conference is a mouthful. The UN World Tourism Organization, Government of Jamaica and World Bank Group, Global Conference and Partnerships for Jobs and Inclusive Growth through Sustainable Tourism. But it's important to remember this November 27 to 29 meeting because of what it represents. The conference is being held in commemoration of the UNWTO's International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development. A historic occasion, as it marks the first time that the UNWTO will stage a global conference on tourism in the Caribbean or the Americas.
The single most important international event that we are ever going to do for tourism. It perhaps could very well be also the single most important event that we have done for Jamaica.
The event is shaping up to go way beyond the limits of a technical conference, but will be transactional and business-oriented. Participants will be engaged in plenary sessions and workshops on a range of subject matters. Some of the themes to be explored include economic development, financial management, job creation, and human capital development. The inclusion of the World Bank as a partner is expected to be a game changer, particularly in terms of how the conference is positioned. The World Bank provides a grand opportunity for international funders of tourism to meet with ministers, as well as private and public sector entities that have development projects and are able to access funding through these entities. So Jamaica will be the destination where several of these major sustainable tourism development transactions will take place. International development firm Caenwood International is also a partner in hosting the conference. With Caenwood on board, participants will have an opportunity to discuss and develop sound environmental solutions for tourism industry operators. Two of the expected deliverables from this conference will be an outcome declaration and the publication of the second UNWTO Affiliate Members Global Report on Public-Private Partnerships. Coming out of the conference, the UNWTO will also present a report to the UN General Assembly in 2018 with regards to the activities of the International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development, of which the conference will play a major role. At the UNWTO, there have been much talk on the need for public-private partnerships. Still, there has been a failure to translate that on the ground in any effective manner. The conference will kickstart discussions for the creation of on-the-ground activities to develop tourism across the globe through partnerships. This is of significant importance to developing states such as Jamaica, who rely heavily on the economic power of tourism. Of deeper significance for Jamaica, especially the people of the West, is the creation of a Montego Bay Declaration. The declaration will be used as a roadmap to strengthen public-private partnerships and enhance donor funding and investor engagement. This will create the framework for more responsible, sustainable, and universally accessible tourism in the second city. The declaration will also address tourism leakages that are crippling the industry. So the established tourism linkages network is expected to play a greater role to combat the issue and allow the Jamaican people to benefit more from the sector. The conference is attracting many leaders from government, multilateral organizations, international financial agencies, non-governmental organizations, cruise lines, other tourism entities, and of course, Jamaican businesses such as small and medium tourism enterprises. Since the agreement was brokered in January for Jamaica to host the event, Minister Bartlett has been on a whirlwind promotional tour to garner support and attendance at the conference. In Africa, he was able to secure Ethiopian Airlines as the official carrier to take the continent's dignitaries to the conference. The industry's largest intelligence portal, which provides media, insights, and marketing data to thousands of tourism players, Skift.com, is also expected to be reporting from the conference, as Mr. Bartlett met with the agency's president, Caroline Kremins. He has also gone to Germany, Thailand, Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States of America. Jamaica stands ready to benefit from billions of dollars worth of free advertising by hosting this conference. The Multi-Sectoral Planning Committee is fired up to put on a wonderful conference to show the world why the land of wood and water is the cultural superstate.
It's also a first in the world for the United Nations World Tourism Organization, because it is the first time in any location that all the elements of tourism are going to converge to discuss sustainability issues, to discuss its future, and to celebrate on matters that will inure to the future development of world tourism.
We are children and we have rights. We have a right to be
protected,
provided for,
and included.
Don't beat me up, don't belittle me, and please don't molest me. I am under 13. I should not be working for a living. That is child labor. It is illegal.
Stop leaving me alone. I am too young to provide for myself. I need your guidance.
Protect our nation's children. They have rights too. To learn more about children's rights, call or visit the offices of the Child Development Agency.
I hope you found our program informative. Send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm. Stay informed on our social media pages. There's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Or download our app on your Apple and Android devices to catch up on the go. You can also visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for more information. On behalf of the entire production crew, I am Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.